Thank you very much. I want to welcome everyone to this afternoon's meeting of the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. Today on our agenda, we have one resolution, Senate Concurrent Resolution 2. Senate Concurrent Resolution 2 honors our former colleague, State Senator Allison Copening, for her advocacy on organ donation and expresses the support of the Nevada Legislature for the development of a Transplant Institute. Today, we also have a work session on a bill we previously have heard, Senate Bill 82, dealing with some changes to the charter of the city of Sparks. And additionally, we have a possible bill introduction, a bill draft that we will be considering. Madam Secretary, I believe we do have a quorum present here at our meeting. I believe Senator Ken Azzaro, our majority leader, is running a little bit late. If you would please mark her present when she arrives. I've got some housekeeping materials that I want to go over, and I know it's repetitive and duplicative for our members and for everybody who watches or listens regularly, but just want to go over them. Before we begin our agenda items, I want to briefly explain how these virtual meetings session. As you know, for the time being, the legislative building is closed to the public. As a result, all committee meetings will be held virtually. Any committee members, staff, and presenters will be participating either through Zoom or by telephone. Remember, as most of you are doing now, you may view committee meetings online through the legislature streaming service or on the legislature's YouTube channel. As in previous sessions, all committee-related information is available on our legislature website's NELIS feature, Nevada Electronic Legislative Information System. Again, you can access that on the LCB website. For this session, members of the public have 3 ways to submit public opinion and/or testimony. Please note that each way is slightly different. Some will become part of the public record. Others are opinions shared with legislators' information. The 3 ways are providing testimony via telephone during committee meetings, submitting written testimony, and using the opinion poll application. Testimony via telephone during committee meetings. To testify on bills or provide public comment during the legislative session, members of the public should register on the NELIS system and then call into the phone number provided. To register, you click on the Participate button under each meeting, fill out the requested information. After registering, you call the number provided at registration to be placed in line to testify either in support, opposition, or if you're neutral on the bill, or if you'd like to provide public comment. Our broadcast and production services team will prompt you when it is your turn to speak. It's a first come, first served option, and testimony may be limited. Members of the public can send in written testimony. Written testimony can be emailed as a PDF to the following email address, SENLOE, the @ sen.state, state.nv.us, or sent via fax to 775-684-6500. Written testimony should include the bill number, a clear title such as testimony in support or in opposition of a certain bill, and the person's name and if they're affiliated with an organization. All of these submissions become public exhibits posted on the NELIS system for your and the public's consideration and become part of the public record. Last method is the Nevada Legislature's opinion poll. The opinion poll application has been used in previous sessions, but it's more prominently displayed and located in more places than before. It's available by clicking Submit Opinion, that Submit Opinion button near the date of each meeting on the NELIS system. Through this feature, the public can provide comments or just indicate their position on a bill. The comments are only available to legislators and do not become part of the public record. For public comment, the committee will set aside a time at the end of today's meeting for people to call in. If you miss a hearing and want to know what happened, committee hearings are recorded and posted on the legislature's website, usually available by the next day. I know that was a lot of housekeeping information, so please don't hesitate to contact me or the committee staff if you have any questions or need any more information. And today we will be considering actually Senate Concurrent Resolution 2. I think we will go to that first because I'm not sure. I know Senator Spearman has some other commitments. We had hoped that she would be able to present that, and it's possible she still may be joining us, but from the communications I've had with her, it looks like it's kind of uncertain, as to whether she will be with us or not. So I think if it's okay with the presenters, I'd like to briefly go to Senate Concurrent Resolution 2, and I'd like to, actually, I've got some introductory remarks that I'd like to make, after talking with Senator Spearman, and I'd like to just read those into the record, because I'm not sure if she'll be able to make this, and if she is able to make it, then we'll open it up to her to speak in a little bit. I'd like to thank all the committee members, and for the opportunity to enter these comments in the record regarding Senate Concurrent Resolution 2. Many of us served with Senator Allison Captioning here in the Nevada State Senate. I know I was privileged enough to get to serve with her, get to know her, and get to work on legislation with her. And I know she was always very fair to me. We worked on legislation in terms of trying to prevent foreclosures, trying to keep people in their homes. We also worked on some healthcare issues together. And one session we had almost identical bills, which something very rare happened that session, and both bills passed and both bills got signed by the governor, and both accomplished the same goal, which is very unusual, but we both worked collaboratively on that. During Senator Captioning's term in the Senate from 2008 through 2012, she sponsored an impressive collection of successful bills, including legislation regarding the use of environmentally safe cleaning products in schools, the safe handling of waste tires, and the instruction of financial literacy in high schools. She also raised awareness of the importance of early detection of melanoma and skin cancer, and she promoted organ donor programs. Senate Concurrent Resolution 2 honors her legacy and her advocacy for organ donation. With her unexpected passing in January of 2020, she modeled what she preached in life. She donated her organs so that others could live. Organ donation in the United States and Nevada. Nationwide, over 107,000 people are awaiting a life-saving organ transplant, and of these, at least 600 Nevadans are anxiously waiting their turn for a new lease on life through an organ transplant. Since 1988, nearly 800,000 organ transplants have occurred in the United States, with more than 30,000 transplants performed annually. Even so, according to the American Transplant Association, on average, 20 people die every day in the United States due to the lack of an available transplant. This is why organ donation is so critical. Just one deceased donor can save up to 8 lives through organ donation. That person can also save and enhance more than 100 lives through the life-saving and healing gift of tissue donation. Senate Concurrent Resolution 2 and the need for a Transplant Institute. Nevada faces particular challenges when it comes to organ transplant services. As noted in the resolution, Nevada's transplant services and facilities are severely limited. University Medical Center down in Clark County is the sole transplant provider in Nevada and is currently only providing kidney services. Because of our state's limited transplant resources, Nevadans were unable to receive Senator Captioning's wonderful gift of life. In fact, most Nevadans must leave the state to receive the transplantation services they so desperately need. The Nevada Donor Network, you will hear from the network's representatives in a moment, has embraced the mission of growing the number of organ donors in Nevada, increasing this number by 190% since 2008. However, due to the lack of robust transplantation services in our state, more than half of all donated kidneys in Nevada are exported to transplant programs in our neighboring states. Senate Concurrent Resolution 2 highlights the efforts of the Nevada Donor Network Foundation to bring a full-scale transplant institute to Nevada and establish Nevada as a center for health innovation and economic development. Such an institute would enhance research opportunities, create thousands of jobs, and satisfy the demands of a growing region. The economic benefits of a transplant institute are clear. According to the resolution, it's estimated that more than $356 million could be added to the regional economy by 2040 if transplantation services are added to satisfy the demand in our state. Moreover, Nevada could serve as a magnet for transplant patients from outside the region. With the increased population of communities of color in Nevada, the need for a robust organ transplant infrastructure has never been greater. According to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Minority Health, African Americans make up the largest group of minorities in need of organ transplants. While African Americans account for 28.7% of the candidates currently waiting for transplants, they comprise just 12.5% of organ donors in 2019. Similar statistics play out for the nation's Hispanic population. Over 20% of the total candidates currently waiting for transplants are Hispanic. However, the Hispanic community comprised just 14.6% of organ donors in 2019. The efforts of a full-scale Transplant Institute can promote organ donation among Nevada's communities, which will help in finding more suitable donor matches due to similarities in blood and tissue types within ethnic groups. I'd like to turn it over now to Mr. Musgrove and Mr. Ferreira, and then open it up for questions. And then if Senator Spearman is able to join us, I believe she'd like to speak to the resolution too. Would ever like to begin?
Mr. Chairman, Dan Musgrove for the record. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for those wonderful comments that you and Senator Spearman have put together. If I could, before we get into talking about Senator Captioning, who I served with as well well, didn't serve with, but worked with. One of the last things that you mentioned was the issue with minorities. And, you're going to hear from Mr. Ferreira regarding a true Nevada success story going from worst to first in the nation and the world. And one of the things that we've been really good at is being self-critical when it comes to our work with the minority community. And I just wanted, before we got into the resolution, just kind of, because I know this is very important to Senator Spearman and what we do in terms of reaching out to those communities that aren't well served when it comes to donation. I just wanted to highlight that, like, August is what they call National Minority Donation Awareness Month. And we did a full-scale campaign, including working with the Clark County Commission. Commissioner at the time, Lawrence Weekly, did a resolution declaring it August the National Minority Donation Awareness Month. We worked actually with the Hispanic Legislative Caucus to get out stuff to social media, to the Hispanic community, because we know that we need to reach out to those communities and make sure that they understand organ donation. And so, again, with the tragic passing of Senator Captioning, after a bit, we reached out to the family because we thought it would be an absolute perfect memorial for her to kind of come to the legislature and talk about her gift of life, and also introduce the legislature to the Transplant Institute that we will talk about further. Medicaid, and I know this isn't a budget committee, but Medicaid sent in 2019 and 2020, sent 70 Medicaid patients out of state for liver transplants. I mean, that's just in the Medicaid population. And so it's a tremendous burden and cost to families to try to have to leave the state to go get on a list or live and reside near a transplant center, waiting for that time when an organ comes along that meets the criteria for them to be a recipient. And so that's what's so unique and great about what Nevada Donor Network is doing. And if this was a different budget year and a different time in our state's financial history, we probably would be asking for an appropriation like the Lou Rubo Center did last session with SB 528, because we absolutely know that expanding transplant services in the state of Nevada is a benefit to all citizens. But instead, we're here asking for a resolution of support instead. And so with that, I'm going to open it up for our President and CEO, Joe Ferreira.
Thank you, Dan. That's great context for what I hope to be able to convey to this committee. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I truly appreciate and I'm honored to be able to spend this time with you to talk about what we're interested in and the importance that it could have here in Nevada for the community. And to be clear, this is a statewide initiative, although we have operations in Las Vegas, in Clark County. We also have an office in Reno, and we are considered a federally designated statewide organization for all intents and purposes. And so just to highlight and emphasize some of the comments that Senator Spearman noted in her written testimony, there is a great need across the nation of people that are desperately waiting for an organ transplant. And for some of those people, the call never comes. And we've been blessed and fortunate, thanks to the incredible team that we have at Nevada Donor Network, to be able to cultivate a culture of donation to the extent that, as Dan noted, we are a world leader in organ donation and transplantation, meaning organs that are recovered here in Nevada are transplanted at a greater rate somewhere in the country. And the challenge, the missing piece to this conundrum is the ability to transplant more of those organs into Nevadans. And of course, the legacy of Senator Captioning and, the legacy that we hope to leave for her, given the work that she did, and some of which was highlighted through several of you who had the opportunity to work with her. I did not have the honor and privilege to meet her or work with her. But given the type of person that she was in community service and her leadership, I agree with Dan that this is an opportunity for us to serve a great community need, especially amongst our minority population in the Hispanic and African American constituents in the state. And as was highlighted in Senator Spearman's notes, that is the greatest need in terms of transplantation. And some of the statistics that you shared, Mr. Chairman, and on behalf of Senator Spearman, indicate that 60% of the list of people waiting for these critical organs to save their life are in the minority community. And we realized that we could do a better job conveying the need and the benefits to those populations on more people becoming a donor. So since 2012, we underwent a cultural transformation and decided that we were going to be better on behalf of the community. And we internally transformed our culture and then began to methodically onboard and re-engage with many stakeholders in the community. The DMV is a gigantic partner of the Nevada Donor Network, given that most people register to be an organ donor at the DMV. We also partner with law enforcement and all of the hospitals, the Nevada Hospital Association. And so we have this footprint in the community that has the ability to turn this idea of a Transplantation Institute into a reality. So we set about on a campaign to raise significant funds. And we're committing to doing that because we know that we need to transplant more of these organs here in Nevada. We want to help people no matter where they are, to be clear. And we are grateful to the heroic donors that are able to save lives as heroes, no matter where those people reside. But we feel compelled to advocate on behalf of Nevadans so that they don't have to relocate and they don't have to have that agonizing stress of how are they going to find the financial means to go to California, Arizona, Utah to wait for that organ and uproot their whole support system. So because of the influence of our board, both on the foundation side and the governing board, and we have many very influential community leaders represented on our board. Some of the people that I'm referring to, I'm sure you will recognize readily. And I invite you to go to www.nvdonor.org, and you can see the composition on our board and the people that are involved in this mission. And so I would just compel this committee and thank all of you as community leaders for supporting this initiative that is a great need. And if we had found ourselves in a different time economically, this would be a different conversation. But we're cognizant of that, and we know that people are suffering, and we need to focus on other aspects of the economy. But we hope in the future to be able to come back to this committee and others to express how critical this is and honor the legacy of Senator Captioning. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to share with you today.
Thank you, Mr. Ferreira, and thank you, Mr. Musgrove. And I believe I have some questions. I saw the Majority Leader has a question, and if anyone else has questions, please either raise your hand on Zoom, or please just raise your hand and I'll recognize you. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Ferreira and Mr. Musgrove, for being here to help present this. I am so honored to actually hold the seat that Senator Captioning once held in the Nevada Senate, and so I remember very early on jumping into this and meeting with her and just thinking to myself, you know, she is really the best of us, cares about the folks that she represents, cares about her community, and did so with such an open heart and open arms, and was a wonderful mentor to myself. And I know there are just so many of us who miss her so terribly. I don't think I will ever do this seat as much justice as she did. I can only hope that we can make these small differences. And so I just wanted to say thank you for being here and for presenting this. And I give a lot of thanks to my colleague, Senator Spearman, as well, that she brought this wonderful resolution to honor my mentor and friend, and I know a friend to so many others. You know, I was also very touched. Her family shared the story about her also sharing her gift of life with others upon her passing. And I just think that's such an important piece. And you talked about this, Mr. Ferreira, the help of the DMV to have those organ donors there. I am proudly one myself. And so, you know, it as much as this is, difficult to express, because Senator Captioning and Allison was just so, such a wonderful person, and we just all miss her so terribly. I really do appreciate you highlighting some of the things that we have been able to do here in our community to highlight the needs around organ transplant, and around organ donation. And I think the idea of a Transplant Institute is simply a wonderful one. And I think you've aptly illustrated some of the challenges with Mr. Musgrove's comments on the number of Medicaid families who are seeking for this type of medical treatment to save lives, to literally save lives, where they have to seek that elsewhere. And I think anything we can be doing here in state to make sure that those families and those communities, and especially those that are disparately impacted in our communities of color, certainly can have access to those same services, so that we can save lives right here in Nevada. I know that's what Senator Captioning would have definitely been here advocating very fiercely for. And so I just wanted to take a moment of privilege to recognize my predecessor in this seat, and what a wonderful person, senator, community leader, friend, and family member that she was. And also to just thank you for all of your efforts. And, you know, I remain hopeful that we can find some way in the future where we have some more resources to make this a reality, because I do think it's a much needed service and so much good to go along the way. So I just wanted to, again, thank both of you for being here, and certainly a thanks to Senator Spearman for bringing this forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the indulgence. That was more of a comment than a question.
Thank you, Majority Leader, and you're continuing a great legacy in your district with carrying the torch from Senator Captioning, and I thank you for your remarks. Senator Spearman, I think Mr. Musgrove wanted to speak, be recognized, and then I think Senator Spearman has been able to come join us from another committee. So Mr. Musgrove, then Senator Spearman.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Madam Leader. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew that as we began this process, our first call was to Senator Captioning's sister, and she is absolutely in supportive of legislation and really wanted to be here to perhaps testify. But back in Indiana, there's a couple of issues that she's having to deal with, family-wise, a bit tragic, but that I won't go into. And she sends her regards and regrets that she couldn't join us today. But this is absolutely supported by Senator Captioning's family and obviously others as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Musgrove. Senator Spearman, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for this resolution. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say I probably didn't know Allison as well as most of you in the committee and during this hearing, but the time that I did know her, I know that she was a very genuine and thoughtful and caring person. And it didn't really matter what time of day or night that you called, she would always be there. And I sponsored this bill because I believe that it is a monument to her memory. And we will see people in the future that will have benefited from her organ donation, but also from others who are following in that path. I'd like to say one of my sisters has been waiting on a kidney for 2 years. And so organ donation is really, really important. I often say to some of my friends in church, heaven really doesn't need your organs. You can leave them all here and you'll be cool. So I'm glad to sponsor this bill in memory of Senator Copeland.
Thank you, Senator Spearman. Thank you very much for bringing this resolution. Members, any additional questions for Senator Spearman, the sponsor of the resolution, or Mr. Musgrove, Mr. Ferreira from Nevada Donor Network?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Severs-Ganser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say that I support the resolution and that I had the privilege of knowing Senator Copeland, and she was just a thoughtful, lovely person who was looking out for the citizens of Nevada, and she really contributed greatly to what we do here in this body. And so I'm very pleased that this was brought forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And certainly, I know that this would be important to her. I've been working with a constituent during the interim who was a lot younger than normal transplant recipients, and she was in a rural part of northeastern Nevada and had gotten very ill in a smaller hospital. And unfortunately, it wasn't recognized what was happening and that her heart was slowly dying. And she was lucky, one of the lucky ones, and was able to receive a heart transplant, but had to be, I believe, medically medevaced over to University of Utah Hospital in Salt Lake. And there she was able to get her transplant, but I don't believe she would have been able to receive that heart transplant here in Nevada. And so it would be huge if we could be able to help Nevadans here in Nevada. And I hope that someday that will happen. Well, not seeing, unless there are any other questions, I don't want to miss any members. All right, not seeing any other questions, I'd like to now move to testimony in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution 2. I'll turn it over to Broadcast and Production Services.
To testify in support, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you. I believe that we are 2 minutes per speaker is what we're setting it at.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To testify in support of SCR2, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 122. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Katie Ryan, K-A-T-I-E-R-Y-A-N, and I am System Director of Nevada Government Relations for Dignity Health St. Rose Dominican. I'm also here today as a friend of Allison's. I know there will be a lot of people testifying in support of this today. We've heard a lot of really wonderful comments so far, but I just wanted to say how much she is missed and how much this bill would mean to her. Losing her that day was traumatic and unexpected. But what wasn't unexpected was that her last action here on Earth was giving the gift of life to so many that desperately needed it. My dad was a kidney transplant recipient, so I know very well what it's like to get that life-changing call and have to rush out of state to go get the organ. And thankfully, my family was prepared and able to do that. But passing this bill will make sure that so many more Nevadans will have the ability to receive a transplant also. Thank you, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ryan. Thank you for your testimony. Members, any questions? All right, no, thank you. Broadcast, is there anyone else who'd like to speak in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution 2?
Yes, caller with the last three digits, 904. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You'll have 2 minutes and you may begin. Caller with the last three digits, 904. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you. Greetings, committee and Mr. Chair. This is Tyree Gray, President of the Nevada Mining Association, TYREGRAY. Today, I testify both professionally and personally in support of SCR2. September 12th, 2012 is a day I will never forget. At 2 p.m. on that day, my phone rang, and I heard the words I'd been waiting to hear for 7 years. There's a kidney available for you, and how soon can you get down to UMC? Being able to have my kidney transplant in Nevada and not Utah, Arizona, or California was a huge burden lifted off my family's shoulders. The economic activity that will be generated by having a kidney transplant center in Nevada is sizable. Plus, the savings that will be experienced by Nevada's social safety net and Nevada employers who must balance the cost of healthcare for their employees will be substantial. Thus, I stand in support on behalf of Nevada's mining industry that offers employees employer-paid health insurance and to its dependents, and personally as a person who owes his existence today to an unknown stranger who gave me the gift of life. Thank you, and I stand for any questions that may be there.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Thank you so much for sharing your what you went through with the committee. Members, any questions? Okay, not seeing any questions. Thank you again, Mr. Gray. Broadcast, is there anyone else who would like to speak in support of the resolution?
To testify in support of SCR2, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. Broadcast, anyone in opposition of the resolution? 2 minutes per caller.
To testify in opposition of SCR2, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Mr. Chair, there are no more callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you, Broadcast. Anyone who'd like to speak neutral to the resolution? 2 minutes per caller.
To testify in neutral on SCR2, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working, and there are no callers at this time.
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate Senator Spearman and Mr. Musgrove and Mr. Ferrer presenting the measure. Before I close the hearing on Senate Concurrent Resolution 2, I wonder if the appetite of the committee might be to take a vote on this today and get this moving. If there's an interest, I'd be open to a motion for
Chair, this is Vice Chair Lang. I'd like to make a motion to support SCR2.
Thank you. I have a motion from Vice Chair Lang for due pass for SCR2. Is there a second?
A second, Mr.
Second. I have a second. I believe, I'm not sure, it was kind of a tie there. I think it was Majority Leader. And I've got any discussion on the motion? No discussion on the motion. All those in favor, I believe we need a roll call vote. So I'd ask the Secretary to take a roll call vote.
Senator Cannizzaro?
Yes.
Senator Sievers-Gansert?
Yes.
Senator Lang?
Yes.
Senator Buck?
Yes.
And Chair Orenshaw?
Yes. Thank you. It looks like the resolution passed unanimously, and I'd like to ask Senator Spearman to carry it on the floor. That's okay with you, Senator Spearman? And
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I think you was asking me if I had any closing remarks.
oh, yes, and certainly if you have any closing remarks, I'd love for you to no. And if it's okay, I'll have you defend this bill on the floor. Thank you.
No, you all did a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Spearman. Thank you, Mr. Musgrove. Thank you, Mr. Ferreira. Thank you, committee. I'll now close the hearing on Senate Concurrent Resolution 2, and we have one item on work session, Senate Bill 82, which we heard on February the 18th. Senate Bill 82 revises the city charter of Sparks as it relates to when a candidate's name appears on a primary or general election ballot. I'd like to turn it over to Director of the Research Division, our policy analyst, Mr. Stewart. He'll walk us through the work session document.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, for the record, Michael Stewart, committee policy analyst. Committee members, you have before you on Nellis, and the public also has it, Senate Bill 82. You recall that we heard this on February 18th, and it amends the city charter of the city of Sparks to clarify the manner in which municipal candidates are nominated for office. Specifically, it provides that if only one candidate has filed for nomination by the close of candidate filing, that candidate must be declared elected and no election shall be held. However, if more than twice the number of candidates elected have filed for municipal office, the names of those candidates must appear on the primary election ballot. Senate Bill 82 also provides that if not more than twice the number of candidates to be elected have filed for office, no primary election is held, and those candidates must be placed on the general election ballot. For candidates appearing on the primary election ballot, SB 82 does clarify that a candidate would be the majority of the votes cast.
Excuse me.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
We can't hear.
I think we're getting some feedback. Would everyone who's not speaking, could I ask you to turn your microphone off? I feel like we're getting, and I apologize, Mr. Stewart. We think we need you to start from the beginning, if that's okay.
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
All right, I'll try this again. Can you all hear me now? Okay, thank you. So just really, just to start over. So SB 82 committee members, as you recall, we heard on February 18th, and it does clarify the manner in which municipal candidates are nominated for office in the city of Sparks. If a candidate, if only one candidate for nomination declares candidacy by the close of candidate filing, that candidate must be declared the nominee for that office and no election is held. If more than twice the number of candidates to be filed for the municipal office, those names must appear on the primary election ballot. And then SB 82 also provides that if not more than twice the number of candidates to be elected have filed for office, then no primary election is held, and those candidates must be placed on the general election ballot. Now, for those candidates appearing on the primary election ballot, SB 82 clarifies who receives that a candidate who receives the majority of the votes must be declared elected. And if no candidate receives the majority of the votes cast, the names of those two candidates who receive the most votes must be placed on the general election ballot. This is what we've normally known as the 50+1 provision you've seen in other jurisdictions. And then finally, SB 82 clarifies that an elected officer enters office at the first regular meeting of the City Council following the meeting at which the canvass of the election returns are made. And I would note that there are no amendments offered for this measure. This bill was proposed by the Sparks Charter Committee, and much of the provisions relating to the nomination and appearance on primary and general election ballots is language that is mirrored in NRS. So that covers that, Senator Orenshaw, and I know that Mr. Wes Duncan from the City of Sparks is also present for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. And I believe this bill, sponsored by Senator Ratty, brings the City Charter of Sparks into conformity with state statute. And we are fortunate to have Mr. Duncan, our former colleague, the Assistant City Attorney at the City of Sparks here. If there are any questions, members, any questions about the bill? What it will do? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Senator Orenshaw, Senator Lang, I move SB 82 out of committee.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Lang. I have a motion do pass on Senate Bill 82. Is there a second?
A second, Mr. Chair.
Second, Majority Leader Cannizzaro. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any discussion, I'd ask the Secretary to take a roll call vote on Senate Bill 82.
Senator Cannizzaro,
Yes.
Senator Severs-Gansert,
Yes.
Senator Lang,
Yes.
Senator Buck,
Yes.
and Chair Orenshaw.
Yes. Thank you. It looks like that passed unanimously. I know Senator Ratty's not here, but I'll sign the floor statement to Senator Ratty. And if for some reason she can't defend the bill on the floor, I take the floor statement. And then the last item we have, members, on the agenda before we go to public comment, members, you should have received in your email a copy of BDR 17-512. That's a bill that we got on the agenda for a possible committee introduction. That bill comes out of the Sunset Subcommittee of the Legislative Commission. It authorizes the Legislative Commission to study governmental purchasing, of the Commission to study governmental purchasing to request for each legislative session the drafting of not more than 2 legislative measures which relate to matters within the scope of that Commission on Governmental Purchasing. You all should have received a copy of this BDR earlier today. Of course, we will hear more about the measure once it is hopefully referred back to our committee and scheduled for a hearing. A vote or a motion in support of this bill draft introduction is not an indication of support of the substance of the bill, just support of it being introduced. We would need the committee's approval to get the bill moving in process, assigned a bill number, and referred to the appropriate committee to be heard. We're hoping it'll probably come back to ours, but I'm not sure about that. Would any member care to make a motion to introduce BDR 17-512?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Majority Leader. I have a motion from Majority Leader Canizaro. Is there a second?
I second.
Second. Thank you, Vice Chair. Second from Vice Chair Lang. Any discussion on the motion? You're not seeing any discussion. Secretary, if you would take a roll call vote.
Senator Canizaro,
Yes.
Senator Sievers-Gansert,
Yes.
Senator Lang,
Yes.
Senator Buck,
Yes.
Chair Orenshaw.
Yes. Thank you, committee. And that bill will now be making its way to the floor and through the legislative process. Before I get to public comment, I did get a message from Mr. Musgrove from the Nevada Organ Donor Network that University Medical Center of Southern Nevada, he believes will be sending a letter in support of Senate Concurrent Resolution 2. So if and when we do get that letter, that can become part of the record. Now I'd like to move to public comment. If there's anyone who'd like to make a public comment, we are limiting that to 2 minutes per caller. And I believe I will give it a minute, but I think broadcast whenever it's you're ready, we'll go to public comment.
We are currently taking public comment. Please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, we are currently taking public comment. Please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working, and we currently have no callers at this time.
Right. Well, I think that finishes all our business. So we'll adjourn today's meeting. Thank you, members. I know it was quick, but I think I appreciate all the work and thank you. We're adjourned.